It's my distinct privilege to introduce two incredible activists. One who I have looked up to forever from the time we were both protesting the Vietnam War, her more publicly than me, but somebody who has lived her life with principle and tried to really make a difference. Beyond being an incredible actress, she has been an incredible activist. That is, and the other person she's young, and it is amazing how much she's accomplished over these few years, 10, 15 years, and she's so young, to really make a difference and bring serious issues to the table. We've talked about climate resilience, we've talked about climate change and housing policy and housing development. We haven't talked enough, I think, about fossil fuels and housing policy. And so let me please introduce two people who will do that, Jane Fonda and Nalleli Cobo.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I like starting my presentations by doing something interactive. Because I am on a time limit, I need you guys to participate as fast as you can. What do you think of when I say Los Angeles?
Palm trees.
Palm trees.
Parking lots.
Sunshine. Smog. What do you think of?
Entertainment.
What do you think belongs in a community? Green space.
Food.
People, food, homes.
Bicycles.
Parks. Come on, guys.
Street vendors.
Notice how not a single person said an oil well. The reality is that Los Angeles is the largest urban oil field in the nation, with approximately 580,000 Angelenos living a quarter of a mile or less to an active oil and gas well. In the state of California, we have approximately 2.3 million Californians living a mile or less to an active oil and gas well. And in the entire United States, we have 18 million Americans living a mile or less to an active oil and gas well. Which brings me to my story. I grew up 30 feet across the street from an active oil and gas well that operates on land leased to them by the Archdiocese of Los Angeles. I grew up here in South Los Angeles in a vibrant community that I can't help but smile when I talk about my community, because it was truly a sense of family and unity. A sense of community where if my mom was making breakfast and she realized we didn't have cheese for our omelet, we could ask our neighbor and they would give us cheese and tomatoes and spinach to really jazz it up. We were walking home from school and we saw the ice cream man and we didn't have cash on us. He said, "No worries, pay me next time." It was a family. I knew all of my neighbors except one, the oil well. It would operate behind these really tall walls, and when I was younger, I actually thought it was a parking lot, and I came to think it was an amusement park, and I was upset they never invited me over. But I realized we were living next to an oil well. I was about 9 years old the first time I got sick. It all started with a nosebleed. My nosebleed began and brushed it off. I didn't drink enough water that day, I was outside too long, until that nosebleed came back 3 times that week, each time stronger than the last. My nosebleeds got so severe I could no longer sleep in my own bed. I would sleep in a chair to prevent choking on my own blood at night. I developed body spasms and my mom would have to carry me from one place to the other. Heart palpitations, and I wore a heart monitor for several weeks. I was diagnosed with asthma. That's something I'm always going to have to live with. I had stomach pains, headaches, the list goes on. Elenco is the oil well that operates 30 feet from my home, and it has 21 underground wells. It operates with 9 surrounding schools in the area, and shares a wall with a daycare for newborns, and it shares another wall with a high school for children with disabilities such as paraplegia. Something many people don't know about these oil wells is that they operate under such immense pressure that valves have to be manually opened every 10 to 15 minutes to prevent an explosion. We're living on a bomb. I was 10 years old or 11 the first time I learned this, and I remember checking the clock every 10 to 15 minutes, being in 3rd grade, and whispering to myself, I hope they open the valves. That's not normal. Eventually, I would get distracted with Foursquare, kickball, and I would forget about the valves. But at 3 p.m. when I would walk out of school, I would whisper to myself, while I forgot about the valves, I'm glad the worker didn't, and they allowed me to live another day. That's the reality frontline communities live with. knowing we don't control anything in our community from tanker traffic emissions released, but we can control our voices and our powers. So what do you do when your community is under attack? You stand up and you fight back. I'm gonna say that again. What do you do when your community is under attack?
Stand up, fight back.
So we did. With my mom, who's here today, hi mom, we co-founded a grassroots campaign in our community called People Not Pozos, People Not Oil Wells. And we started raising our voices, making noise in our communities. After 4 years of working in what felt like complete silence, we were fortunate to capture the attention of the Los Angeles Times. They wrote a story about my community, and that article captured the attention of former US Senator Barbara Boxer. She came out and had a press conference with us in front of my childhood home, and she pleaded Alanco Energy to cease operations. Shortly after, they were temporarily closed, which was made permanent in March of 2020. It's where you clap. Yeah. That historic change was made possible because of a frontline community that was historically viewed as silenced, invisible, as disposable, said enough is enough. We deserve to open our windows in our home, and we deserve to breathe clean air. I love my activism, and it has truly brought me out of my shell, but I was 9 years old when this started. I didn't even know what the word activist meant until I was 11, when a reporter had asked me, "What do you feel like being an activist?" And I asked her to pause the recording and explain this fancy new term she just threw at me. I didn't realize that I grew up in a community of activists. I didn't realize that what my mom and I were doing was community organizing and advocacy. I was doing what I felt needed to be done to live. My activism was truly born out of survival, and I fight every day to be the last 9-year-old to become an activist out of survival. 2020 was a difficult year for everyone. But on January 15th of 2020, I heard the words no one ever wants to hear. You have cancer. I was diagnosed with stage 2 reproductive cancer a month after my 19th birthday. I went through 3 surgeries, 6 weeks of radiation, 3 rounds of chemo, 8 minor procedures, and I fought off 2 infections before I heard the words, you are cancer-free, and I'm now 3 years in remission. I fight every day to be the last 19-year-old to have to choose her life and her reproductive system. I am a very proud daughter of 2 immigrants. My mom came here from Mexico and my dad from Colombia. And something that my mom has always said is that when she came to this country, she never thought she would have to fight an oil well for her children. And that's the reality for so many parents who come here in search of a better life for us, in search of giving us a life they could only dream of. But because of the love our parents had for us, they mobilized, they made noise, and we got that oil well shut down. We have been continuously working to get Los Angeles to phase out their oil wells, and 2 years ago, we did it. The Los Angeles City Council and County Board of Supervisors voted unanimously to phase out all existing oil wells and ban new oil well exploration, which is historic. Woo! That is what happens when we put our voices together, when we use our voices, and knowing that no story is not deserving of being told, knowing that your education doesn't make you any less with your lack of education in this situation, because I was in elementary school when I began my activism. Still haven't graduated college, but we're working on it. So many times we feel like we are less than because we're youth, because we're women, because of our ethnicity, and those are not weaknesses. They are tools that make us more powerful, and they add a unique perspective to this work. It's so important that we stand hand in hand with one another, with scientists, with lawyers, with frontline community activists, because together we are 10 times more powerful. Something my mom always says is that this movement is a puzzle piece, and without you, the puzzle is incomplete. You have a unique shape and a unique size that no one else can fit to that piece but you. So join us in this fight, please. I fight because I believe everyone has a right to breathe clean air regardless of their age, their gender, their ethnicity, socioeconomic status, or zip code. I believe clean air is a basic human right that should not be denied to us because of that. I dream of a world where a 9-year-old opens her window and she sees trees and not an oil rig. I dream of a world where we can go outside and play and not fear of triggering an asthma attack or a nosebleed for our children. As someone that has gone to Catholic school her entire life, first grade through senior year of high school. It's because of the beliefs and morals that the Catholic school has instilled in me that I do feel it's my job to call them out on being hypocrites. Because just because it's on land leased to them by the Archdiocese, it does not make them holy missions. And it is... it's, in all honesty and unfortunately, it's another way that the church is abusing children. And we cannot stand by and do that. In 2015, I co-founded the South Central Youth Leadership Coalition, and we successfully sued the City of Los Angeles for environmental racism and violation of the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA for short. Shortly after, which meant there was a new memorandum and a new application itself when looking to expand or open new oil wells in our community. Shortly after, the oil industry sued us, the youth, on the terms that we have no right to tell them where to drill. We won. And shortly then after that, they also tried to get us to pay all of their attorney fees, which would come out to $750,000. To 14 to 17-year-olds, that's their tactic. They don't care about us. They don't care about the surrounding community because the surrounding communities, and we are called sacrifice zones. That's not okay. We are not guinea pigs. We are real people with real lives that deserve to have a just life. I'm a normal 23-year-old who loves makeup and dancing and Justin Bieber. I love music, and it's because of that that we should allow each other the opportunity to continue to live our lives and thrive in our communities. We have a very big upcoming fight this next year, which I will invite Jane Fonda to talk to you all about. But please stand with us because everything matters in this situation. They may not be drilling in your community right now, but they can be unless we stand up and fight back. So my question to you all is, will you raise your fists in the air and demand environmental justice and climate action, or are you going to wait until it's your life on the line? Thank you.
What Nalleli didn't tell you is that at age 10 and 11, she and her mother had to be put into a witness protection program because of her organizing in the community to shut the oil well down. That at 19, she had to have a total hysterectomy. That her dream was to be a dancer, and that is no longer possible for her. You know, it's not like this is over now for her. She is still facing challenges to her health. As she said, there are almost 3 million Californians who live next to wells. And what happened 2 years ago, 2022, after years of protests and pressuring from the frontline communities, what the oil companies call sacrifice zones, they fought and they fought, Nalleli being one of them and her mom, Monique. Governor Newsom finally signed a bill that created a 3,200-foot setback. This is the largest setback in any oil-producing state in the United States. It's what science says is, this is relatively safe. It's not safe, but it's safer. 3,200 feet, no new wells. The wells that are already inside, many of them orphaned, have to be made safer. They'll never be totally safe. They have to be made safer. Great rejoicing. A week later, oil companies began gathering signatures, lying to people, saying if the governor's bill is enacted, gas prices are going to go up, you're going to suffer at the pump. They also were told that people would be less safe in communities. I mean, absolute lies. But they managed to get the requisite signatures, and they're going to be on the ballot in November. And we hear they're going to spend $200 million to win. We don't understand why exactly. There's not that much oil, and the oil that is left is bad. California oil now is more dangerous to the environment and to human beings than tar sands oil. You know, all the easy to get stuff is already got. So they are literally scraping the bottom of the barrel. That's true with gas, it's true with oil. That's why we're wanting to drill in Alaska. It's why we're doing the Deepwater Horizon kind of thing, you know, drilling it we're doing things that are really hard. That's what fracking is, because all the good oil is already got. And like all wounded beasts, the oil companies are really dangerous right now. They are poking holes. I just got a message from a friend in the Permian, which is the big Permian area in Texas and New Mexico where all the gas was discovered. She said it's worse now than it's ever been. They're poking holes everywhere to get at this gas because they can export it. That's why it's so important that that President Biden called a halt to the export of gas, of liquefied natural gas. This was a major and very, very brave thing that he did. But how many people here come from California? Okay. We will never match them dollar for dollar. They have the deepest pockets. We will never be able to get every TV ad that they have. You know, we can't match them ad for ad. But we have the truth on our side. And so what we have to do is create awareness. Tell everybody about this. We managed to change the referendum language so that it's clearer now, and that was a huge victory. But let people know what is happening. The oil companies are trying to do this all across the country. They're trying in Pennsylvania. They're trying in Colorado. Boulder, Colorado passed a ban on fracking. Now the oil companies have a ballot measure in Colorado that outlaws banning of fracking everywhere in the state. You know? They are not. Those other places in this country are not as rich as California is, not as progressive as California is. We have to win here. This is a must-win situation. We cannot let big oil overturn our popular desires and our popular well-being in California. We've got to beat them and show the other parts of the country that it can be done, and give them courage to keep fighting. And we have to understand, I don't have much time left, we have to understand the climate crisis is actually a massive health crisis. You know, the toxins that are being released in these, what they call sacrifice zones, they don't stop at the border. They're filling the air of the world right now, and it's causing massive epidemics in cancer, for example. 40% of the people in the United States are going to develop cancer in their lifetimes, and over 1.8 million new cases are expected to be diagnosed this year. I had cancer a couple of years ago, so I hoped my hair would fall out so that I could tattoo climate emergency on all this new real estate that would become available. But I was told, oh no, don't do that. The cancer community doesn't like to be looped in with other causes. Causes? Honey, the climate crisis is not a cause. This is the largest crisis humanity has ever faced, and we're running out of time, and we have to fight back, and this is the state that has to do it, the biggest and the strongest and the bravest and the most successful. So just join us. You know, we are the first generation to experience the effects of the climate crisis, and we're the last generation that can do anything about it. So let's do it. Let's make this happen. Si se puede. Thank you.